I'm not quite ready to discuss cryptocurrency here. I'm certainly not ready to discuss NFTs and all of the ramifications of that entire ecosystem. But I am here to speak about something I think of as the Razzle Dazzle Project, which became something really special and notable in that space, which took my breath away, enough that I almost want to make a documentary. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It, a podcast about technology, history, and getting myself out of debt. Thanks to Jeff Atwood, Daniel Boyd, and the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. All right, there is a company that calls itself Atari. It is not worth your time to track down exactly how this company came to be. I'll just quickly say that Atari was actually two companies. One of the companies got sold to Midway, and the other one stayed as its own thing. It got bought, and then bankrupt, and then bought, and then bought. And that's where the company stands now. It's essentially a file cabinet. And that file cabinet has always been pretty active in terms of licensing out the concept of Atari. We have seen many different products, many different reboots and reimaginings that this company, calling itself Atari, has given the approval for. There's some really good stuff that has come from it, most notably the Atari 50 project, which is done by Digital Eclipse and is a fantastic job of presenting the concept of Atari. But then there's everything else. Weird Atari currencies, vaporware projects and products that never come to fruition or come to fruition far beyond when the fruit is still ripe. And then, one year, they proposed the Atari Hotel. Not just the Atari Hotel, but a chain of Atari hotels. This got my attention. There's a page where Atari describes the Atari Hotel, the idea of the project, how it would come about, and some artists' renderings, fanciful by any standard, of what it would look like. Reminiscent of the Atari logo, containing references to different video games, all of them ones which this company, Atari, has any rights to, and then telling you that there would be not just one, but a chain of Atari hotels opening soon. This planning was all pre-pandemic, so I'll give them that slack. There were certainly lots of challenges. Were they actually moving forward, breaking ground, and building a building that would be difficult to house through a pandemic? But they never got that far. It was an idea, a concept, a coming soon. Vaporware, in other words. But I was hooked, and I continue to be hooked. The idea of turning the concept, the zeitgeist of Atari, into a series of residential buildings rentable by the night hits me with such a unique set of feelings. If it hasn't been obvious, I love Atari. I love the idea of Atari. I love the way they did so many things, their aesthetics, their approach. I know, for example, that there was a plan to do a whole set of Atari arcades and how unique they would look, the prototypes that were made. I've seen the drawings, the architectural works, which are at the Strong Museum of Play, which allow me to dream about what an Atari Hotel would be like. The designs for the Atari Hotel that currently exist are at best rough artists' renderings of the outsides. We don't really have a full idea of what it would be like to be at one. We don't understand how the rooms would be themed, what the livery, the towels, the sheets, the wallpaper would look like. Would we have screens with games on them? Would we have suites dedicated to different aesthetics? Would we have asteroids in one room, combat in another? How would you walk from one place to another and feel it? How would you truly feel it? Through all of this, I feel the urge of wanting to make a film. I mean, the film, it would be very unlikely that I would want to spend much time on it. But the idea that the aesthetics of the Atari are such a powerful thing 50 years later, that the outlook and design of that logo and the works around it hit in such a special way that a half century later, we might want to live among it. We might want to rent a night to be near it, is incredibly compelling to me. How would it feel to go into a place like that? How would it affect you? Would it be a good experience? Would it be hokey or chintzy? Would it be something that looked good for a short period of time and then a little while later would feel as false and cheap as a themed cartoon hotel with peeling walls and broken carpets? Hotels, more than most buildings, have a lifespan. If they don't receive constant renovations, ripping out their carpets, redoing all of their furniture, they become very dated, very unhygienic, unpleasant to walk through. If you have a pool, you're going to get mold. If you have beds, they're going to get worn down. Chairs are going to become threadbare, curtains ripped, electronics, televisions, out of date. It's constant maintenance. It eats money for breakfast. So whatever we would see out of an Atari Hotel would probably be something we would only enjoy for the first few years, until itself slowly, inevitably decayed. But I see in that a germ about the idea of being so attached to a brand that we would want to wrap ourselves in it, that it's not an idea you want to throw immediately into the trash, but merely frown because you're skeptical it could ever happen. That is the magic of the Atari brand. I don't see myself making a documentary and traveling and interviewing people, dredging up and bothering Al Alcorn or Nolan Bushnell or other figures from Atari. I just don't see it. Maybe we'll see a YouTube video or a presentation from me where I go deeper into this, into the techniques of design and building hotels and how difficult this would be, but how would we approach it? Maybe doing an experiment where I design it or contract to have it designed and showing what could have been from the mental exercise. But that's it. I often come up with these dreams, ideas for documentaries unproduced, just like any dream. Probably unrealistic, fun to experience. But still, I just can't stop thinking about it. What would have been an Atari Hotel? Even if they only built one, even if it was destined to fail, to fall into receivership, be bought by a new crew who give it a little bit of a polish and let it live out its contracted license to the end of its existence, what would that unique, weird, probably Las Vegas hotel be? That's the germ, the seed, that may mutate, grow, or die inside of me. Because once you've made documentaries, you never truly live in a world where you're not thinking about them, not pre-planning them, sketching out the ideas, like a hotel that will never be built, and dreaming, when it occurs to you, to walk through the hallways and feel something that you probably don't otherwise often feel. This is Jason Scott Talks His Way Out of It. Thanks to James Bekoyanu, Mark Pilgrim, Ernie Hershey, Michael Rubin, Craig Talbert, Dilip Reddy, Sean Kelly, Trixie the Cat, Martin, Symbionts, and Anonymous, along with the hundreds of other supporters on Patreon and elsewhere who have been supporting me and helping me get out of debt. Recently, I was visiting Terminal 5 at the JFK Airport in Queens, New York, and there is a terminal there that is a historical landmark. It was once the TWA terminal. It was designed by the same architect who had designed the Thomas J. Watson Research Center in Yorktown, as well as the John Deere headquarters, the Bell Research Building, and more. And let me say that if you want to experience the ideal Atari Hotel, it's the TWA Hotel. The TWA Hotel has all the livery of Transworld Airlines. It's got the looks and curves of the 1960s. The walls are covered with historical retrospectives of the 1960s. There's rooms set up to look like the 1960s. And there are two different flipboards, one showing you the actual flights happening at JFK, and the other one, a kind of work of art that you sit down in these beautiful curved red benches and watch it create pixel art out of a flipboard. The rooms are all stylized to be the 1960s. The lettering, the carpets, everything is pitch perfect. There's even a plane parked outside that functions as a lounge. Every note in this building is the note, I think, in our hearts we would love to see from Atari. So squint a little bit, set your mind open, and you can visit the Atari Hotel today.